My name is Jamail, and I'm an expert witness with policeabuse.com, and this is a preliminary expert witness report. This report involves a young man who was under the influence of a small amount of cocaine. He called the police for help, went to a local Burger King restaurant seeking some water and some assistance. He was given assistance by the Burger King staff, but when police arrived, police engaged the young man in what we believe was excessive force. The young man had an officer step on his face with his boot and suffocate him while he was on the ground, paralyzed from an injection given to him by a paramedic. The paramedic and the police, we believe, botched the investigation. The paramedics did not determine what sort of drugs were in his system before they made the injection. They didn't verify any details in terms of his medical history. And the police, we believe, engaged in several acts of excessive force and violence. We are investigating and sending a full team of policeabuse.com investigators and journalists down to Houston to look further into this matter.
Texas. I was the manager here at the Cypress Wood Burger King on the night of, or the morning, early a.m. of September the 30th, 2010. I was scheduled to come on to work that night, the night before, which would be September the 29th, at 10 a.m. and work to the next following morning till 7 a.m. So I am 45 years old. I am the assistant manager here at this Burger King, Cypress Wood, 444 East Cypress Wood, where Jamail Amron came the night that he passed away. I would like to state that this is a voluntary tape recording, that I would like to talk about the incident that I saw on September the 30th, early a.m., in the beginning hours of the morning of September the 30th. I give permission to Mr. Ali Amron and the court system, judges, lawyers, district attorneys, news agencies to play this tape and use it for the purpose of justice and hopefully stop any kind of crimes that might be happening with our police and our paramedic force that are not thought about or looked at into the steps that take the fate of someone's life. So this is solely for the purpose of justice and the facts as I saw them that night. And let me begin. I was working here at this Burger King, again at Cypress Wood, and around the hours of 1 a.m., between 1 a.m. and 1:30 a.m., I was on the front counter of my store. My store was locked. Our drive-thru is open 24 hours a day. I was taking reports from different cash register systems and previously shutting down the system for the night and getting ready to do all my managerial duties for the night as far as a lot of paperwork goes. I was in the drive-thru area when I heard a knock at the front door area, and I looked at the front door area, and there was a young man that had banged on the window like a knock and wanted to know would I please help him. And I told him that I cannot help him and let him in the restaurant. And then he knocked on the window again and said, please help me. And at that moment, I took things into my own hands that apparently this young man really does need some serious help. And maybe I just need to make a phone call for him. I really wasn't sure what was the deal. So I told him that he would need to walk around to the drive-thru window and let me talk with him there. So he walked around the front of the building, which is our playground area. And as he reached the front corner of the building, I had already previously gotten both cooks from the kitchen, brought them with me to the drive-thru area, and I told them that they needed to be there for witnesses, and that I needed them to hear everything that this particular gentleman needed to say or what was going on in the situation as basic witnesses. We didn't know what was about to happen, and I was really taking a serious situation into my own hands, but I really felt like that it was the right thing to do. So as Jamail came around the front corner of the building, coming towards the drive-thru, I stuck my head out the window and I said, sir, what can I do to help you? And he said, please give me a drink of water and would you please watch me? And I really felt like he was scared, and I really felt like he felt threatened, like someone was chasing him or someone was out to hurt him. I really wasn't sure what was going on. So approached the drive-through window, and I looked him eye to eye, and he asked me again for a drink of water, and he asked me again, please watch me. In other words, he didn't want me to leave him alone. He wanted me to watch him, that he didn't feel comfortable. And at that point in time, he told me that he had been hyperventilating, and I said, okay, and I could tell that his heart rate was at he was breathing heavily. As I looked him in the eyes, he looked normal. He didn't look drunk or anything like that. He looked as normal as you and I and any other individual would look, but just afraid. He looked afraid. So I gave him the water, but before I gave him the water, I said, you know what, sir? I said, I think you need a lot of water and you need it quickly. So I dumped the ice out of it and gave him a 1 cup of full water. And he took the cup from out of my hand very calmly, very respectively, really never said anything else. He got busy drinking the water. He was so thirsty. And then he was very kind and respectful, and I guess he wanted me to feel comfortable in watching him and not threatened. So he took it upon himself to sit on the concrete ledge in our drive-through up underneath the red sign and just a few feet away from the drive-through window. We had no customers at that hour in the morning, and there was no one else in the store except for me and my 2 cooks. One of my cooks' name was Marcela, the female Spanish cook. The other one was a brand new cook. That was his first night. His name was Evan. Again, my name is Dale, and I just want this solely for the purpose of this particular case. I feel like that justice was not done. I feel like this particular citizen was not served right in the steps that happened previously after he drank that cup of water. Matter of fact, I don't even think he got to drink 2 inches of that water from out of that cup before his entire life and fate changed. As he proceeded to sit down on the concrete ledge, I heard a cop car coming up Cypress Wood very fast, and as I'm looking out the drive-through window, he's coming up Cypress Wood. He flies into my parking lot, and as he flies into my parking lot and flies across the parking lot, he's heading straight to Taco Bell at a very fast speed, nonstop. Jamail really is still kind of getting his breath, but then realizes that it was a cop car that flew across the parking lot, and so he very patiently gets up, and he looks to see where the officer went. Well, I guess he couldn't see him, and he felt comfortable to sit back down and get some more rest and drink some more water. Within a matter of a few moments, the police officer drove up in my drive-through just like a customer would drive up toward the drive-through window. He parked, I guess, estimate of about 12 foot to maybe 14 foot from Jamail's body as he sat at the concrete ledge by the drive-through. The officer proceeded to get out of the police car, and he verbally started making communication to Jamail in a verbal language I felt that wasn't necessary, but the officer chose to use it. But the officer spoke to Jamail, and he basically told him, if you do anything, I will not hesitate to knock the fuck out of you. That was his comment. And Jamail still sat there very peacefully, and at that point, I really didn't know what the police officer had accusations toward Jamail at all. He was treating him like a criminal, like he had done something terribly wrong, like he robbed a bank. And I really didn't know at that point what Jamail had done, but it didn't, to me, look like Jamail, if he had robbed the bank or done anything bad, why didn't Jamail get up and try and run? So I really felt like Jamail didn't do anything to deserve this police officer's actions toward him. He was still sitting there very calmly and very peacefully as the officer approached him. The officer got him to get up, and he proceeded to put handcuffs on him. But at that point, I think Jamail was becoming uncomfortable, and Jamail started talking to me as I had the drive-through window still open at that point, and me and my cooks were looking. And Jamail said, please, I didn't do anything. Please, ma'am, call this phone number. And he started talking and saying 832, and then I didn't get to hear the rest of the numbers. It was as if my mind froze as to what was going on, and the rest of the phone number is blank in my mind. But at that point, after he handcuffed him and turned him around, he did not search him. He did not read his rights. I don't even think he asked him his name. The only reason I know his name is because they had the candlelight vigil here at my drive-thru after Jamail's funeral. And I got to meet a lot of the family, and you know, they wanted to know where Jamail had laid at. and they had a candlelight vigil here, so I kind of learned his name and, learned a little bit about the family members, and it seemed like he was a very nice young man. Anyway, so at that point, Jamail and the police officer started heading to the ambulance. There was two ambulances that had pulled up on the scene shortly after the police officer pulled into the drive-thru. One ambulance parked almost exactly across from the drive-thru window. One parked a little bit further behind and a little bit closer to the officer's car. Both paramedics got out, walked toward the drive-thru. One paramedic stayed at a distance the entire time, the entire morning, as everything proceeded. The officer did walk Jamail to the back of the ambulance, and at that point, I don't know what happened at the back of the ambulance because the ambulance was parked at such an angle, I could not tell what was going on back there. But within a matter of moments, they weren't there very long, and I was still looking to see what on earth is going on here. And at that moment, Jamail started to running from the back of the ambulance back towards the drive-thru window, which is where the police officer's car was parked. The police officer had a firm grip on Jamail's, you could say his bicep, and was trying to grab a hold of him. But as Jamail approached the police car, the police officer managed to use his body and all his force to pin Jamail to the car, while I guess the officer had already called for backup. Another officer pulled in the very front part of the drive-thru. This particular officer had a mustache and was thin and built. And then there was a female and another male officer that pulled in the drive-thru back area where the menu boards are at. Those three officers ran towards Jamail and the officer as Jamail was being pinned to the car. At that point, I really still didn't understand what this young man had done for these officers to be acting in such an aggressive way. I really feel like the very moment that the police officer came to the drive-thru area where Jamail was sitting, I found out that Jamail called 911 himself. Well, if Jamail called 911, he's a citizen, and he called because he needed help. And what I don't understand is why the paramedics did not come to the drive-thru, let Jamail remain resting and sitting peacefully, and get him checked out. Why he was put in the handcuffs, I'll never understand that. Because I believe when that police officer did what he did, putting the handcuffs on him, I believe he changed the fate of Jamail's life that night forever. And everything became aggressive from that point on. And I don't really know what all happened at the back of that ambulance, but something happened at the back of that ambulance that scared Jamail, and he started running back toward the drive-thru window. I don't know if he was coming back to tell me something more or to give me the phone number to beg me to call. I have no idea what happened. But I just want to make mention that it just seemed like the whole night was just totally unreal and unnecessary as to the way that things happened. And as the officers had Jamail pinned against the car, the one paramedic, which was the smaller built paramedic, kept standing to the right-hand side of Jamail with the officers all around him. And the officers, I believe, were all trying to, the word would be ascertain and get him into control to where he was in, I guess, maybe a stable position to where they were going to have the paramedic give Jamail a shot. And again, I don't see where there was enough time to ask if Jamail was a diabetic, if Jamail was a heart patient. I don't really see where there was enough time to do all that. And my father was a paramedic and a fireman in the city of Nacogdoches, Texas. His name was all of my teenage years of my life. My father was a fireman and a paramedic, and I learned a lot. And there were things that were done that night. There were steps that were made that night that I don't know. I just don't think that there was enough time to check out Jamail physically before any kind of shot or injection should have been given to him at all. And I really feel like that very injection that paramedic gave Jamail took his life, because he dropped like a dead man from the side of that police officer's car the very moment that injection was given to him in that arm. And as Jamail fell to the ground, he fell like a dead man. He fell like there was no movement whatsoever in any muscle of his body. He had no control of his body. It collapsed very quickly to the ground. He was still handcuffed. The very first officer stood back and was getting his breath. The paramedic stood back. But the other three police officers, the woman in the middle, put her foot on Jamail's stomach and kick-tapped him on the side and the rib cage. The other male officer was at Jamail's calves with his feet on Jamail's legs. And then the one officer that was the very first officer that drove up into the drive-thru with the mustache, he put his foot on Jamail's face, which was totally uncalled for, and he put his boot on top of his nostrils and his mouth and pressed down firm enough to where the skull was laying on the ball of the skull on the asphalt. But when he put the foot on Jamail's face, his neck became closer to the asphalt. That told me that he was pressing down hard enough and that it was not necessary. I don't know why he was doing that. Jamail wasn't making a move. He wasn't doing anything. He was laying there like a dead man. I don't know, and I'll never understand why that one officer did that. And if Jamail was still alive, that officer was cutting off his air supply, and that was just not right. If that were my son, I would want someone to do something about the acts of these officers and this paramedic on this particular night. I know for a fact there was an injection given, because when the paramedic came away from Jamail's arm, I saw a white capsule pack with a red tab on it fly off the hood of the car. My father is a diabetic at this day and time. I know what needle capsules look like, and it was a needle capsule. If this were my son, I'd want to do something about it, because I see what happened, and I recall it in my mind over and over. Jamail's body laying there and him falling like a dead man as soon as that shot was given to him. I believe with all my heart that this young man might have had a chance to live with that cocaine in his body. And maybe it would have done its thing and he would have been fine if only the paramedics would have known why he was sitting down in a calm, rational way. Maybe the hands of fate would have changed that night, and maybe this young man wouldn't be dead. I'm asking you, the lawyers, the district attorney's office, and the court system to please bring forth the justice that is due into this case, and please research and look into it further, because something happened that night that shouldn't have happened. And I really feel like somebody needs to do something about it. What if it were my son? What if it were you guys' sons or your daughter that made a mistake and took some cocaine or another drug, that realized that it wasn't good for their body after they put it in it? Would you want someone to put the boot in your son or your daughter's face and cover the nostrils to where they couldn't breathe? Would you want a paramedic giving a shot to your son or your daughter from permission of a police officer, not knowing if it was the right dose or the wrong dose? Would you want that? I don't think so. If only I would have known Jamail's dad, if only I would have not froze up at what I was seeing at the rest of that phone number, and Jamail was turned around very quickly, and I really didn't hear the rest of the numbers come out of his mouth clear enough to be able to dial it. We don't have cameras on our building, but I will let you know that those police officers came back to my drive-thru window that night, and they wanted to know, was there any hidden cameras? Why? Was they afraid of something that was going to be seen? Did they want to hide something? Please look into this case further, and please, if you need any information from me, again, my name is Cindy, and I am giving permission for the courts, district attorney, and any other legal assistants to contact me or talk to me in any way, shape, form, or fashion about this particular case. I would like to see justice be done. I'd also like to protect my grandchildren and my children from anything like this ever to happen to them, as well as the other family and citizens throughout the United States and this world. This case needs to be looked at further, and it is my prayer that you would do so and investigate it to the fullest. Jamail should still be alive to enjoy Thanksgiving and Christmas with his family. please bring forth justice in the case of Jamail Amron. And please contact me. And I would love to talk to you in regards to this case, that justice might be brought forth fully and completely in memory of Jamail Amron, and that no one would ever have to deal with this again with their son or their daughter. We can't bring Jamail back, but I can use my eyes that God gave me, my mind, which is a good, solid mind, the memory of everything I saw, to bring forth justice. Please help.